And I'm going to use this little brush today. It's the round number 5. And I also keep this little one handy. It's one of my small brushes. The one I have is a 5/0, but you also might have a 0. Either of those will be fine. So I'm going to use my water. I'm going to put some water in my yellow. I'm going to put my water in my green, my light green. Put some water in my water container. Put it down there by the trash can. Right where that, see where that rainbow scarf is? Right in front of it. Yeah, right there. That's perfect. Okay. So I'm looking right here, and you see that there's all this shape of grapes here. That's where I want to put my water. And I don't want to cover up anywhere the cherries are. I just want where these grapes are. And I just barely want to touch the paper. So I don't need a lot of water. I just need a little bit to wet the paper. Now I take a little bit of water, a little bit of yellow, a little bit of green. Yeah, don't touch any of mine. I'm kind of picky with them. All right, so I'm going to add I am changing my mind. I'm going to use a little bit of olive green. Did you paint this? Did you draw it yet? Yeah. Did you dump a bunch of water on the floor? It wasn't that much, but I did drop it. Okay. All right, so I took some yellow, green, and then I added a little bit of olive green. There might be some, I don't know if there is some. You might take a walk through the other room and see if there's any, because I usually have some in the, for some reason, there's always some around the photo room. Brushes in the photo room. I don't know why. You just have them. There's some in the windowsill. Here. Use this. It'll be easier. Those don't carry. It's okay. That's what they're for. So I barely touch my grapes with my brush. I just put a little bit of green. It's very watery. Does that make sense? So I can still see my pencil lines through my paint. That's good. We want to do that. That's what watercolor is about. I think I have a cherry that I made grape, but You can just set it over that plastic right there. It's like, yep, that's perfect. It'll dry. They might be, did you see? All right, so there's a couple up here that is like a watery green. All right, so we're gonna make some of our brown now. So if you guys can see these two colors, I'm gonna make my exposure a little bit brighter. So there is a brown, and then there's this color that looks kind of like a yellow brown. So I got this brown here. Kind of looks like, I don't know, an orangey brown. And then there's this color that looks kind of like a yellowy brown. We're going to use both of these. So we got an orangey brown, and then we got kind of a yellowy. Mine are right next to each other. Yours may not be. And let's see where my other blue is. All right. We're going to go back to my favorite blue again, because I know everyone loves it. There's a really dark blue. And you're only going to need a little tiny bit of it. So you got this orangey brown. You have a little drop of this blue. And you're going to get this beautiful color for your table. So I'm going to move my picture under a little bit. All right. So if you're very careful, I didn't wet my table yet, but I am just going to paint this down. And then I'm going to add a little water. What? So once I paint it down, I'm going to lift up my little line of paint. So what I'm doing now is I'm just following the color. I'm not really trying to do the lines in the table yet. I'm just looking for color. Ooh, that was too much. Ooh, come on. Ugh. Yep, those are all the ones I need up here. Those are for our more. So when I add more blue to my brown, it makes it like more of an ashy color. When I add more of the brown to the brown, it makes it warmer. So if you look at your picture on the right here, this kind of has like a little bit more of an ashy green color. When I look at this stuff on the left of it, it's like a warmer you know, has a little bit more of that orangey tone. So, and I like to do it in layers and let it spread around a little. I don't know, does that make sense when you guys are painting? And if you want, you can actually work this into... Wait, what? Have you started painting it?
No, I just finished drawing.
Are you going to use one of them? Okay. So if you are somewhat caught up right now, there's a couple different places we can go with this. We can start working around the apples. We can start working around in the background of the fruit bowl. There's choices. So we can start working on the apples. We can work in the fruit bowl. Which direction would you guys like to go? Do you have a preference? What? Do you want to paint on the cherry? We got to wait on the cherries because they're right next to the grapes. So we'll do the cherries tomorrow. How about we start working on, here, we'll do this since we're working in greens today. Let's start working in, okay, we're going to use yellow. I'm going to take yellow. I'm going to add a little water to it. We're going to start working on the edge. I'm going to actually use a really small brush. So I'm setting down my middle brush. I'm going to use my really tiny brush. I can use my bigger brush for a second. I'm going to add water before I set it down right here along my apples. I'm painting around my apples in the fruit bowl. That's the reflection. And I'm just putting water there right now. And I'm actually, since we painted the background yesterday, it's dry. So right now I can paint the fruit bowl today. And I'm just going to put a very thin amount of yellow on it. And then I also want to do a little bit right here. It's not the whole thing, it's just a little bit. So while we have a few extra, very good. That's what I was looking for. So while we have a few extra minutes and we're kind of working, I don't want you to touch anything we've just did, but you have your round brush, you have your little tiny brush. You can actually kind of start looking at this little ring on the bottom of this apple. It's like one of my favorite things to do. That has a red ring on it. Probably the last thing we'll do today. And it's got all this red that kind of goes up the side. And it takes a really tiny little brush stroke. And you kind of just feather it. And since we have a little extra time right now, I am just adding a little bit of it right now. So tomorrow we're going to do our cherries. We're going to do our darks. We're going to make everything look three-dimensional. We'll add darks right around our bananas, darks on this apple here, darks around our oranges, darks around these three apples, add some darks around here. Yeah, it'll turn out really good.